Civilization 7 is finally here, and whether you're a Civ veteran or you're totally new to 4X games and don't even know what 4X stands for, it's an acronym for Explore, Expand, Exploit and Exterminate, FYI, there are plenty of new systems to learn in Civ 7. I'm Eurogamer's Ian Higton, and in this video I'll be running you through 14 beginner's tips that should help you lead your chosen nation to victory, rather than straight into the clammy little hands of your opponents. As much as you might want to, don't send your scouts wandering aimlessly into the fog at the very start of the game. Once you've got your first settlement up and running, you'll want to start exploring the area so you can discover any nearby wonders and map features like discovery tiles, which trigger narrative events that let you choose from 2 rewards. To help you find these important tiles, the scouts have been given a new ability that temporarily grants them extra vision and reveals any discovery tiles at double the distance. A sight for sore eyes indeed. Because deep down, all human beings are evil, greedy warlords, you'll want to find out where rival civs are on the map and start claiming territory as soon as your capital city reaches 5 population and you can train a settler. Keep an eye on that settlement cap on the banner at the top of the screen though, because you'll get hefty happiness penalties on your settlements if you go over this cap, and that will restrict the settlement's growth and could even lead your citizens to revolt. Thankfully, you can increase the settlement cap via certain civic and tech tree unlocks and via leader attributes, so absolutely don't forget to do that. Unless you really do like riots, I guess. It may sound like a no-brainer, but when founding a new settlement, you're best off looking for spots next to plenty of resources. Settlements can expand to cover up to 3 tiles away from the city centre, so make sure you cover as many as possible. And remember that resources can either apply a flat effect to your entire civilization, or can be assigned to individual settlements, so choose whatever works best for your current plans. It doesn't matter if you have duplicate resources either, as their bonuses will stack. So, don't neglect a resource if you see one. Access to the ocean is vital for settling distant lands in the exploration age, so make sure you're not landlocked. If you're playing on a continent's map, see if you can secure access to the sea via both the east and west coasts wherever possible. This is especially vital for the economic legacy path, where you have to set up settlements on distant lands to import special resources like cocoa, sugar, tea and spices. Even if you're not going the economic route, if you grab resources, you can then make sure other civs can't claim them for themselves, which is proper selfish, but also absolutely the sort of shady tactics that you'll need in order to win. If you've got enemies on your borders and you'd rather that they didn't ransack your lands, hover over them to see which village they belong to. If you haven't found them already, your next goal will be to discover their camp on the map. Once you've located them, you then have a few options. The first option is to use influence to befriend them. This takes quite a few turns, during which time their units will still be hostile, but when it's done, they will be friendly, and unless another civ destroys or befriends them first, you'll become their suzerain, and can choose from a list of useful bonuses to obtain from them. You can even eventually incorporate them into your empire, and take over them if you've got enough influence, so it's absolutely worth befriending every independent people you encounter to secure their bonuses, even if they're not hostile. Your other option, and this is mainly for people who hate friendship, is to march your armies over to distant enemies and wipe them out with military strength. You can disperse an independent people by stationing one of your units on their settlement tile and clicking disperse. This grants a one-time flat reward based on the settlement type. If you're not in any immediate danger, it's also a great idea to take some units and a commander over to the village and let the commander gain XP and promotions whilst your armies battle it out. It's a huge waste to engage in any combat without a nearby commander getting XP and leveling up from it, so make sure you avoid this wherever possible by using your commanders. Commanders can occupy the same tiles as your soldiers, and you can move them around during your turn to make sure they're affecting the units you're attacking with. When an age progresses, you lose any units that can't stack into a commander, so train extra commanders to keep your armies strong. If you train up a unit in a settlement far from the front lines, you can send them to reinforce a commander, during which time they'll disappear from the map. If the commander dies in the meantime, though, the reinforcement will fail and they will reappear where they were originally, which is good news for you and for the reinforcements, but not for the dead commander, obviously. While you're fighting, don't miss the additional options you get by expanding the unit's action bar by clicking the arrow on the left-hand side, as this is where you can upgrade and heal your units. Because, as we all know, everyone loves a healthy unit. On this note, there is one particularly painful mistake that is easy to make while you're fighting. Land units have a severe strength penalty when they're embarked on a ship, making them really weak to enemy attacks. This has always been the case in Civ games, but now the map has navigable river tiles, and your units will embark if they end up there, so make sure to avoid your units becoming vulnerable in a bad spot. The flip side of this, however, is that you can now bring ships further inland to help attack or defend territories. Look out for damaged district tiles in your settlements. These might be the result of a natural disaster like a flood or a storm, an enemy pillaging you, or, if you're a proper meanie, your own people getting a bit grumpy with you. Now, there appears to be an option to repair these damaged districts with production, but this didn't work great for us. Instead, it seemed much faster and more efficient to fix them using gold, since it's relatively cheap and you can repair lots of damage in one go. If you've got lots of money in your bank, consider purchasing units or buildings like this. Purchasing buildings is the only way you can add them to towns, so if you want to expand quicker, don't be stingy and get your wallet out. It's important to pay attention to where you're placing your buildings, especially if your Civ has a unique district type that is formed by placing two unique buildings in the same district. If you build one in the wrong spot, you can lock yourself out of a unique district, and there's nothing you can do about it. And unless you've already unlocked the civics that let you construct both buildings, you won't even get a warning if you're about to lock yourself out either, which, quite frankly, is rubbish. Be careful to not use up all of your influence. There are some great benefits to using it for helpful boosts or subterfuge, but we recommend you keep some saved up in case you need to spend it to block someone trying to denounce you, or to convert an independent fast. You can keep an eye on everyone's progress by hovering over your portrait in the top right corner. This will show vital stats for every rival you've met so far, including their yields per turn and number of settlements. This will be an incredibly important thing to do if you want to make sure you're not falling behind your opponents, as you can then plan accordingly if you are. Trade routes are very important, but you will need to build a merchant and send them over to a settlement in range before you can set up that trade. You can have one trade route to each civilization by default and spend influence to add more, and ideally, you should try to have a trade route with every friendly settlement in range. You can track the current age's progress on the trophy in the top left corner. This is definitely a useful stat to keep an eye on, as when the age reaches 70% completion, this will trigger a universal crisis event. There are a few different crises you can get, from plagues to revolts, and if you get unlucky, they can seriously hamper your plans. Ages don't progress at the same rate though, they start off slow and start to speed up as the civs in the game complete legacy path milestones. That means falling behind can be really bad, and speeding ahead in one area might not give you enough time to complete something else that you're going for. The Golden Age rewards at the end of each legacy track are by far the most valuable, but can be pretty hard to achieve. If you find yourself falling behind other civs in the Antiquity and Exploration eras, all is not lost, but you might need to resort to more violent means of catching up. And that leads us nicely to our last warning. Don't neglect your military, even if you're not going for a military legacy path, because sometimes you might just fancy a dust-up with a rival nation or two. Pay attention to your relationships and try to avoid fighting everyone at once. But if you notice a powerful enemy starting to get ahead of the pack, consider taking a well-placed city for yourself, or even eliminating them from the game if you're strong enough, because one less rival means more land and resources for you. So, hopefully these tips helped you hit the ground running in Civilization 7. If you found this video useful, please do give it a like, subscribe to Eurogamer for almost daily videos about video games, and why not check out some of the other videos that are on screen and clickable right now. I mean, come on, at the very least it'll be civil of you. Sorry.